Do we have a? Yeah. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum? All right.
Terry should announce it as well. Hey,
Yes.
I left my car running. This should take all of like 5 minutes.
You really need to go in? Are you kidding? You're pulling my leg. You
But
are.
hey,
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Oroville Citizens Oversight Committee, February 22nd, 2022. Open session at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, could we have the roll?
Committee Member Goodson,
yes.
Committee Member Smith,
Present?
Committee Member Grover, Committee Member Flicker, Committee Member Malone, Committee Member Castro,
Present.
Committee Member Seychow, Committee Member Quintel, Committee Member French.
All right, let's stand and pledge. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a new committee member, and we're going to have an official swearing in by our clerk, Jackie. So, Sherry French, welcome.
Sherry, if you'll come join me up here. So go ahead and raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sherry French,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Citizens Oversight Committee
the duties of the Citizens Oversight Committee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Welcome. We're excited to have you, and we look forward to working with you.
Welcome. Yeah. Okay, at this time, public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any?
Mr. Chairperson, I do have 3 speakers. Our first one is Julie Miller.
Hello. Tonight I wanted to just speak about some of the safety concerns we have downtown Oroville. It's my understanding that Measure U money is meant to be used for public safety. So the Lot House is of utmost concern right now. There's been a lot of vandalism there, and actually people spending the night there and at all hours of the day. So it would be great to see some efforts put towards that. This money could be put to really good use downtown. And I just wanted to let you know that if you have any, need for public input or comment about what kind of safety or, ways that you could improve public safety, I'm sure the public would be more than happy to, give you some ideas. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brian Williams.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having a moment today. I'm also here to represent the Downtown Historical District as well as the greater city of Oroville, and I do believe that if this is the committee that can help guide the budget for the fiscal year, that to invest heavily in the public safety of the parks, whether it be through lighting, extra patrols, larger police force presence, whether it be numbers of people being hired. I do understand that there's many positions in the city that are still unfilled, and if we have an HR person in the city or someone who could be tasked with helping market the positions that are available so we can find qualified people to fill those positions so that some people aren't overwhelmed with too many jobs with one person wearing too many hats. Again, public safety in any shape or form, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Stephanie Holstein.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name's Stephanie, and it's a pleasure to be here and meet everyone. I'd like to piggyback what my neighbors of the Historic District have mentioned. Public safety for us is every day. I would say the energy spent sometimes of trying to have to find the positivity when we're faced with areas where there might be a little bit of neglect has been a little tough sometimes. We understand there are some positions that perhaps could be looked at to be filled, especially in the area of public safety. If part of the budget could go to that, that would be extremely powerful for us to have one person that's dedicated. We understand last Thursday there was a meeting at the Southside Community Center, and many neighbors there brought up the same concerns that we have here. Cameras, more eyes, neighborhood watches, people coming together to help really make this community what it is at heart, a strong group of people that love its town. And it's really important, I'm hoping that I can express this, that we do need more eyes. We need actually dedicated people, that's their job, committed just to public safety. I know recently at a city council meeting, it was discussed in a comparison to Bakersfield as emulation of the good that town does. Also Costa Mesa. And those areas I know deal with cameras and deal with public safety, and maybe it's possible that we can look into what solutions they're using for data storage, for what I understand at the last community meeting in the South Side, when people were asking for cameras, it was mentioned that perhaps it's a law that the information that's gathered and collected has to be held for 2 years. So that involves data storage, probably a data farm, something like that, cloud storage. So I can understand that's a technological issue, but maybe we need to have someone dedicated actually to pursuing that. And that's their job, to maintain the cameras, the lights, and so forth for our public spaces, our parks, where everyone can feel safe and happy and really enjoy this beautiful, beautiful town. Again, it's been wonderful to meet everyone tonight and see some wonderful, great faces again. So thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Chairperson, that is the last of the public speakers.
All right. Well, thank you for those comments. And of course, that certainly is part and parcel of the recommendation that this committee makes to the city council. And just, I think it's important always to understand that we are a body that makes recommendations, but not necessarily, decisions. So all those things are taken, and we appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Is it not?
You should have your mic on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kay. Did you
Okay.
have something you'd like to say?
I just wanted to thank you for coming tonight. Every year, this committee does meet and set goals and goals workshop, and we try to follow that every year. And I think a stronger public presence when we're doing those goals would be very, very helpful to have some of your ideas on what you see as priorities. So thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, on to regular business. We need approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we'll do a roll call.
I think you can do an all in favor, any opposed.
Okay, we'll
with the
do that.
committee.
That's simple. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous? Nice.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 2, and that is that we adopt a code of conduct. You have that in your packet there before you, a code of conduct that was developed back in 2018 by the previous city council. I think it was back on May 1st, if my memory serves me correct. on this particular code of conduct. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Chairperson, I do not have any public speakers for the rest of the items.
Okay. So do we have any comments from the committee?
I have none.
One of the things that in discussion, especially since we have a new addition, that as a part of our regular process, onboarding new committee members to any of our various committees that we have as a city, that these codes of conduct and other documents are received, just so that, you know, we have a good sense of what those expectations are as committee members. I think it's just really important that we have a good cohesiveness and understanding of what those expectations are, both by our colleagues and just in general as we conduct the affairs of the city, that it's important that, you know, we maintain a sense of decorum and professionalism, and that we handle ourselves accordingly. And I personally feel that's extremely important. So, okay, well, no comments?
I have one.
Uh-huh.
On
Okay.
page, well, it would be actually members shall receive at least 2 hours of training. Is that by committee, or is there regularly scheduled ethics trainings that all committee members from various committees will attend simultaneously?
So, and you might be able to answer this more specifically, but yeah, every 2 years, every person, including city staff, have to receive that training code of, or the code of conduct, sexual harassment, and there's several pieces.
So the decision-making boards that have decision authority are required to attend, including the council. Those that have advisory roles, it's optional. We do offer it, and so it happens right after an election, and so there's a notice that's sent out, and those are able to attend in person, and it's offered typically a couple months after the election every year, or every 2 years.
Thank you.
And it gets into other things too, like, you know, how much you can receive in the way of gifts, and there's various pieces. And we have a professional firm that comes in and provides that training as well. So, okay. Any other comments from the dais? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the council-adopted code of conduct?
Just for information.
Is it just informational? Do we? Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. So we don't need a motion. All right, moving right along. Update of revenue and expense for Measure U district tax. Ruth?
Good evening, committee members. I have a handout for you. I did a 6 months revenue and expense analysis, and I have a couple extra. So our revenues are budgeted at almost $7.5 million, and we are on target to hit that, like really, really close. That's a really good estimate. We had a meeting with our sales tax consultant last week, and he said that was a good number. He believes we're going to hit that target, and he had a lot to say about our economy. However, we have been doing so good even through the pandemic, and continue to be strong, that he's really cautioning at some point we're going to slow down, if not maybe have a slight downturn. But he says that this estimate is still really good, and is very confident that we're going to hit this revenue estimate of $7.5 million. It looks like it's not coming in as fast as it should, and that's because July and August are accrued to the prior year. So this is actually only 4 months. And I apologize, it doesn't, in the past I've given you a month by month amount, and I was trying out a new report, so I will go double back and do it the old way, where I was showing the remittance for every month, because this kind of total doesn't really show that July and August aren't in there. So we will be accruing a full 12 months, and our estimate is still really good. So I'm confident that we will realize all of this money. So on expenditures, I think what pops out right away is Public Works, and we are over budget 10%. So I had to go back and find out what that was, and it was a consultant that we switched to a position. So we're spending a little bit more. I'm going to have to ask the council for a budget adjustment on that. And other than that, I think across the board, the same thing we talked about at our last meeting is we're just not filling positions fast enough. We have a lot of vacancies. We're having a lot of turnover. Even if we get people hired, they're not staying, and I think that is prevalent in all jurisdictions right now. So it's not just us, but we are trying and we are recruiting and we're trying to get and retain good people, but it has been a challenge. Sure.
I don't know if you want to answer this. Do you guys do exit interviews to know why people are leaving, other than just assuming it's for do you do
Turn your microphone.
exit interview?
Yes, that is accomplished prior to the employee leaving. Some employees wish to participate, some do not. The typical reason that we're hearing is it's just a strange job market right now. People are just moving, I mean, because of the availability of work. A lot of the problems that we have in the city as far as retaining employees is we're a small municipality. I'd almost even say a micro municipality. And opportunity once you get here are very limited. I mean, I'll use an example of something that I know very well is the police department. You know, we have allocated 3 detective positions. Right now, we only have 1 that's filled, the other 2 are vacant. But other than that, if you're going to work at the Oroville Police Department, you're either going to work patrol, you're going to maybe get a K-9 along the way, or you will go into the investigations unit, maybe administration at some point. So it's opportunity, I think, is what people are looking at, you know, especially when you have an employer like the Sheriff's Department where there's 50 different things you can do, which, in a 30-year career, 50 different things, doing 10 different things makes kind of a short career. 3 years, you get a little bit bored and move on. You're still within your discipline. You just do something different. So I think we're struggling with that like everyone else. We have done things to enhance our benefit package. One of the things that we did was we offer now something that other small municipalities don't do, and that is a medical after retirement. How that works is that if you've worked for the city for 20 years and you're 5 years past your earliest retirement date, we will pay for your medical until such time as you reach the age of 65 when you're eligible for Medicare. So to make ourselves more attractive. So, the people that are leaving are younger people. It's not older people like myself, not that I'm old, but
Veterans.
yeah, I mean, so we got a lot of movement in that area, and it's all lines of work. I mean, it's not just police; it's also in our public works and other things. So we are competitive with our salaries. We have looked at that to see. We'll be doing another analysis or study to make sure that we're in that market and that we're not, trying to hire people at a job for $15 an hour when they can drive 2 minutes down the street and make $30 an hour. So. It's just a really weird job market right now. And if I could, I would just like to take the opportunity to update you on public safety, what we're doing there, and the issues that we ran into. Over the last year, we've done 38 background investigations. Of the 38, we were able to employ 20. Of those 20, probably 10 have stayed. Some come for as little as a week and then decide this just isn't the work for me, and they move on. So we've been encountering that. The fire department, the same thing. We've done multiple backgrounds, and we've been able to hire approximately 6 firefighters over the last year, and that's mainly due to attrition. But we have been able to fill those positions. So we are having those struggles in that area. We are making a significant investment in the public safety facility right now. Approximately $1.2 million is what is in the approved contract for that. We are going to experience about $200,000 of overages. One of the big things that will do for our community is you'll now have a functional EOC, which is your Emergency Operations Center. Up to this point, we've been extremely reliant or completely reliant upon the county. Reason being is because our EOC was located on the 2nd floor of a police department that is not ADA compatible when it has to be ADA compatible. So essentially, we kind of sort of had an EOC, but not really. So we are working on that. We are also updating our dispatch, relocating it in the building, adding additional space, and are working hard to hire those officers. I mean, because right now, the question always is, how come we don't fund more officers? Well, it doesn't do any good to fund when you're at 18. You're allocated already 27. It doesn't make any sense to change the number to 37 when you can't get to 27. So we're working toward that. But our goal is that once we get up to where we're currently at, to reassess that, and then to size our city right and to size our public safety departments right. Another big investment that we've made in safety is the equipment that our people are using in our public works department. A lot of our equipment was outdated, wore out, used up. We had one truck actually where you could see the road as you're driving down the road from inside the cab. I mean, you could look through the floorboard. It was that old, that well used. That's one thing for us, I think, to be proud of. It's another thing to be embarrassed about, because we did maximize the public's dollars, but we also, we went a little far. Yeah, it's a safety issue. God forbid something happen, and worst case scenario, somebody, if the hole's big enough, fall through the hole as the truck's moving or something. But anyway, so we have done those things. So we are making significant investments in those areas. A lot of this is not real flashy or anything like that. We would like to do those flashy things, but right now we have just been trying to recover from decades of being completely underfunded, and these dollars are making that happen. So we're proud of that. You're seeing some of the equipment driving around town, and you'll actually see the Measure U logo on the vehicle so that the public knows, hey, these are the dollars that we're investing into public safety. Another issue that we're having is just getting stuff. I ordered 10 new police vehicles last August. They'll be here maybe in June. So we're just not able to get this stuff fast enough. So one of the things is we recognize that we're going to do is we're going to meet as early as tomorrow, determine what our list is, and be coming back to council pre-budget and asking for authorization to order the vehicles now, because I know they won't come until fiscal year 22-23. I mean, so we're having those supply chain issues along with everybody else. So I hope that's a long-winded answer to your
Yeah, it is, but we appreciate the information. One of the things I've always been interested in, concerned about since I got on this committee was the code enforcement, and that was a big issue with the city council for the last couple of years. And in looking at the budget, the parks and trees and code enforcement are two of the areas that we're not spending the money, and I know it's because we don't have the positions, but have you thought about spending some money on recruitment, maybe, and looking in different areas? Don't recruit in the same areas you are. Go to the colleges and recruit people from the horticulture department or something. But I think if we spent some money in a different way recruiting, we might have more success in attracting people to the area, as long as the job's competitive.
Yeah, no, I believe that that's an excellent thing. We have to look at doing business different than what we've done it in the past. From, I guess, on the early on days of my working life, you would look in the newspaper under help wanted in those places. Well, that don't really exist anymore. That's not how people communicate or share information. So we have to look at new and unique ways of doing that and sharing that with the community. Even things as simple as on Oradam, the electronic billboard. City of Oroville's hiring, and just to get that out there, get people exploring those things, looking at those different jobs. As far as code enforcement goes, we have recently hired 4 code enforcement officers, and the reason why it's not showing up under the Measure U is because we got a $2.6 million grant from Cal OES, and we're utilizing those dollars to pay for those 4 positions. It closed again today. We will be hiring 2 more, so we'll be up to 6. And we have recently hired a director of that department, so it is taking off from there. It's starting to gain some traction. It took a while to not only find the people, but recruit them, get them on board, and now we're going through the process of, we've created a workspace for them here at City Hall. We are going through the process of getting all the necessary equipment. But to answer your question, yeah, we have to come up with different and unique ways of attracting people and getting the word out that we are hiring. Interestingly enough, Indeed works really well sometimes. Other times, when we recruited for the community development director, we got the strangest set of applications that you'd ever seen. A professor from a college, doctors, something went haywire with their algorithm because it didn't, it made no sense. Why would you want to move to Northern California in a small town when you are a professor at a very well-known college and this is what you want to do? Maybe that's just what you want to do.
Yeah.
But the other ones where there were doctors and things like that applying for these, it just, something happened. We either entered something wrong, we clicked the wrong button, or something happened. But we are looking at all sorts of different ways. It's an electronic era, and we're trying to get better at that, become more proficient, and make sure that we're hitting those spots so that the workforce that is out there, the young people that are looking for work, are interested in us and wanting to come here. I think one thing, too, we really got to do is we got to focus on our own community. We have to get our kids working. I mean, because this is, and not that they're not working, but get them interested in working here. This is their home. This is where they want to be. This was my home. This is where I wanted to be. And for lack of a better term, and please excuse the expression, but you'll put up with a lot of crap when it's your home. I mean, and work sometimes has that element involved in it. I mean, so, and I think you take more pride and more interest. What you do at your house is your business, but when you come into mine and you're doing that, that's a whole another set of problems, especially as a police officer, and I'm preaching to the choir on some of this. When you want to screw up in my house, that's a whole nother problem. I mean, you go to somebody else's and do it, not here. Are you afraid to ask anything else because I won't shut up?
Any other committee members have a question?
I will. I always have a question for you.
Committee member
how about
Castro?
the electronic billboard down at the convention center? Is that
Yeah.
some place that we could advertise?
I think
We're
any of
hiring?
them. I'm fine with any of them, even if it's the car wash on Olive Highway, or the Ford dealership, wherever we have those at, wherever we can get the word out that, hey, we have these jobs, we're interested in you. We hope you're interested in us. I mean, some of us, worked here for a long time. Some of us came to work and got a paycheck, Dave. Others of us, have really contributed hard. I'm just kidding. Dave's a friend of mine. And Dave was a lieutenant when I was starting my career with the Oroville Police Department. And there's always that friendly banter that goes back and forth between police and fire.
I'm also a proponent of, and many of us here on the committee are involved in a lot of nonprofit organizations that have programs, or I'll go so far as to say float in the Feather Fiesta Days parade, just as opportunities to really let the community know we're serious about it.
I like to see us also, one of the things we've been discussing is working with our high schools and like an ROP program or something like that to get kids interested in what we do so they understand what we do. I mean, there's a big lack of understanding what local municipal government does. I mean, people watch Fox or CNN and they believe, we're Congress or something like that. It's not quite what we're charged with doing here. There's also the misunderstanding of social programs. City of this size does not run social programs. I mean, we are dependent upon the county for those things. We contribute. We've recently have a homeless coordinator that we have hired. They're called a navigator to help navigate people to services. We are utilizing dollars from an opioid settlement. We got about $180,000, so we're utilizing those dollars because they can only be used for specific things, and this seems to meet the criterion of that. So we are going to be utilizing those to navigate those folks, meet them where they're at, and try to take them gently to where we would like them to be. So we are looking at all avenues like that. But I think an ROP program in our schools would be something very good for people to come and explore. Well, what does the city do? What jobs are there? There are some kids that want to come right out of school and go to work, and we do have jobs where you can come right out of school and go to work.
I think it's just a lot of those people don't know what those jobs are, what they do. I know when I first went to work for the sheriff's office, I was a cook, and I'd been a cook since I was 16 years old. Never once in my life did I consider cooking at a jail. I didn't even think, it was a possibility. And so there might be people that don't know what jobs are available. So I think we just need to look at people who aren't looking for work. Those are the kind of people you want anyway, that are good employees already working somewhere. But I think our colleges and our high schools are a great place to recruit, especially for the parks positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, some of that work is very rewarding. I mean, when I retire from what I'm doing now, I want to get a job. I just want to mow the park. I mean, that's just, I don't want no responsibility for nothing. I just want to mow the park. I mean,
The
if you
golf
hire me.
course is hiring too, so.
Yeah, I mean, I could drive the mower on that too. I mean, you know, I enjoy mine at my house. I just don't have enough area so I can get enough satisfaction from it. So I've actually taken up mowing the neighbor's field. They haven't asked me to stop yet, but they went and bought they bought their own tractor, so I think it's kind of an indication, you know, nonverbal that, hey, you know, leave my property alone, maybe.
Or they wanted to upgrade the equipment you're
Just
doing
stay
it
on the
with.
east side of Brookville, please.
Yeah. Yeah, could be. I mean, I could shoot across the street. I mean, you know, I've thought about it before, and it's like, well, I can go down there and just, you know. But anyway, that's just, you know, I enjoy that type of physical work and doing those types of things. And I think that, you know, we have a lot of youth in our community that don't have the desire to continue their education. A high school education is adequate, they believe, and they want to enjoy that type of work. And, you know, I absolutely 100% support all of that. We need people to do those jobs. We need carpenters, we need electricians, we need people to take care of landscaping and those jobs. Good job, I mean, you know, and it's just, we need to encourage our kids. We need to encourage our young people to come work with us. I mean, you know, if you really want to have satisfaction, not only do we pay good, we have a good benefit package, but you're doing it for your home. This is where you live. I mean, you know, and I think that you get better jobs from people because they take pride, because this is their home. I'm not traveling to Chico to mow their park. I mean, I'm doing it for my park because, you know, this is my home.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Dr. Lamar Collins, who's our newest principal out at LP, had a recent conversation about the volunteer program that the high schools are now doing, which is an excellent way for the young people to have exposure to city government. And so that is something that is an olive branch available to the city for volunteers from the school in various departments. So that's something, you know, just thinking in terms of how do we reach out to the young people, you know, in that program. So that's would be available to any of our businesses, in particular nonprofits, the city itself, to start, you know, utilizing and making use of that to engage our kids so that they can have those experiences. And also because they have hands-on, they'll be exposed to those potential opportunities that exist there. So just FYI to everyone here as you just think about our community and moving it forward and engaging our young people in the area of employment. Do we have any other comments or questions from the dais?
I did want to go over another line. So,
Okay.
like we talked about already, most of these underspent departments are due to vacancies, but I did want to point out streets. Streets, we budgeted 1.5 million for street repairs, and there just hasn't been anything happening yet. But they have projects in the works, and they are set to have some big projects. I don't know if they're going to be able to spend all of that by the end of June. Might have to carry some over to the next year, but that's why that one's so underspent, is there just hasn't, we don't usually do anything in the winter anyway, so they should be starting to pick up right about now, but it might cross years. And then the line that says general government, half of that is to go to our capital asset replacement fund. That's where we're trying to purchase the 10 cars out of. And then the other half is going to capital improvements fund. And we did budget like 1.479 million. So we're trying really hard to utilize these dollars in a good way, but it's been hard. So
I know last year we had that workshop and recommendations, we had all that process. So, you know, we've had a couple of meetings now where we are basically receiving information, but
Right.
we're not, you know, giving out
that
any
was
thoughts.
what I was going to recommend next, is that maybe the committee consider meeting in March and we go over the priorities for this next budget.
Well, I see we have May 24th set for the next,
I think that's a little late. I think the budget is pretty much done by then, so.
okay, so we'd have to set.
March or
is-
April would be a good time to do a workshop.
Okay, and where I was going with that, you know, we have this reoccurring theme that Mr. Legrand was bringing up, and that is, you know, we have, and as you as well, and that is that we have all these job opportunities, whether it's in public safety or in other areas, and, you know, attrition, and then just the challenge. And some other municipalities and other businesses, for that matter, and use a variety of incentives, bonuses. I'm not a big fan of that personally, just from looking at it from the private sector standpoint. Sometimes that works, but going back to ownership of a community and buy-in, we have for some in the city an opportunity like first-time home buyers program. So just for an example, I think if we could creatively, this body here could creatively think, okay, we're having challenges with recruitment, whether it's home or, from outside of our community, what kinds of incentives, for an example, could we add to the package out of Measure U dollars, perhaps, to reach out, just as a thought, just kind of tossing that out there, because we need to empower the city to be, I think, more effective, get more tools. And again, this is a committee to make recommendation, but amongst this group here, there may be some amazing ideas that no one's thought of.
I think as far as utilizing Measure U dollars for a first-time or a employee purchase program would be not permittable.
Okay.
I don't see a connection between safety and that particular issue, but on the other side of that, we have tremendous amounts of dollars in program income and things like that in our housing department. Right now, we offer $25,000 employee assistance for public safety personnel to purchase a home if they want to purchase a home within the city. We could look at that as a recommendation from the Measure U committee to our council to increase that, to go from 25,000, because I'm not sure 25,000 anymore to purchase a home is all that helpful. I mean, we could increase that.
Today.
I mean, and we secure those dollars with the home. If the individual leaves prior to a certain number of years, or after 5 years, it begins interest. After they've been gone for a certain number of years, then, we call the note. We've only had to do that a couple times, but I would encourage that. I don't believe in hiring incentives either. If you can point to one department anywhere that is completely staffed because they are paying people a $10,000 or $20,000 signing bonus, I'll buy in. But I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is that you have the transient employee that will come and get the $20,000 over the 3 years that's necessary to get that. And then at the end of 3 years, they're on to the next department to get the next $20,000. So I haven't seen anybody have any success with that yet. So we have to have unique ideas, create, outside of the box thinking. So I think it'd be very appropriate for the committee to make that recommendation to our council to increase that. And I think our council, I'm just speculating, would be, amenable to hearing that. And most likely, like I said, again, I cannot speak for the council, but just my knowledge of the council would lead me to believe that they would probably improve something to that effect, being that we do have the dollars available in our housing department.
Yeah, and again, it's just a creativity. We might come up with 100 ideas and find 2 that are just, stellar. Right. So, and that's kind of what this, in part, I think of it as a kind of a think tank for the council. And so, anyway, Ms. Castro.
I completely agree with Committee Member Smith, because we've had gone through the same process for twice now, and we come up with the same 10 things. And they're very, very broad strokes, and I understand we're advisory committee. But I agree completely. The 3 people that are sitting right here right now may have some very interesting ideas too.
Absolutely.
So it's to let the public know that we're going to delve. We've matured beyond the 10, and now let's delve into it a little bit more, into some detail with some more detailed ideas to recommend.
Well, I think one of the problems that I can share with you too about the roads that Ruth was talking about, we have $1.5 million there. We're having issues with engineering. I cannot tell you off the top of my head how many different engineering companies that we are currently utilizing to try to get our engineering done. It is just a really difficult area out now. Civil engineers are few and far between. We did have one for a few days. It didn't work out. So right now we have one, and then we're using consultants for everything else. But it is taking just an incredible amount of time to get anything back from engineering firms. And we do have road work scheduled. We have some large projects. We have slurry coat projects for our downtown area, for our parking lots, things like that. It's just getting them to the point that we can actually release the contracts to be bid on and get that done. You should be seeing some movement on that in this late spring, so that they'll actually be mobilized and working. And then what we've done to help speed this along is that we put 2 years' worth of projects to the engineers so that we can hit these things. And then at the beginning of the next fiscal year, we can also hit the 22-23 paving schedule so that we can start trying to get caught up with our streets. But I know that our Public Works Department is out there patching potholes. I think Wade told me the other day they patched like 14,000 potholes or something like that, which that's incredible to me. I mean, that's, you know.
And they're
good.
Appreciated.
Yep. No, I appreciate them every time I don't fall in a hole. I mean, you know, I have the same issues that everybody else does when I drive around. I hit those potholes too, and I'm not happy about it either.
No. Okay, any other comments before we move on? Mr. Grover?
Yes.
So can you help me out?
Okay,
I'm what I'm looking
okay.
at. So when it says year-to-date expenditures, that's referring
You
to
use the mic.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, you need to put your mic on.
year-to-date expenditures on this form right here.
That's July 1st to December 31st. It's 6 full months.
July 1st to the end of the year.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
So that's half of the year. That's why I have percentage remaining 50%. So if all things were equal and we spent exactly what we budgeted, all these numbers would be 50%, but it's showing you that we've underspent, overspent in that public work. So it's letting you know where we are at in our spending.
Okay. So if it's something, let's just look at parks and trees, and I'm just curious, if that again is we don't have the positions to do this,
Yeah.
can't we just contract all this out? Can't we just hire firms?
We have done a lot of that as well.
Can we do more? I mean, does it just go undone if we don't have the staff? Do we
It
just
rolls
say,
into fund balance, and the fund balance will roll over to the next year, and we could budget more the next year.
and then the
Yeah.
next year,
And the issue,
and the trees grow? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just,
well, we do a
We
lot of
never thought
contract.
we'd get this much money as part of the problem. We were really very conservative in the beginning because we did not know how much we would be getting,
And this
especially with the
council has done a lot,
pandemic.
we have done a lot of that, and we're open to even more of that.
We've contracted out the whole city.
We have been contracting
Yes.
quite a bit
Keep it
of tree
real.
service. We've done that, and I understand the question. The issue you run into is when you have labor unions, you cannot just decide you're going to contract out everything, because what they will do is they will file grievances and complaints against the city
Absolutely.
because we are essentially contracting out their jobs. So you run into those issues. It's kind of a complication of government. I mean, so we have to carefully balance that with what we do. But I understand what you're saying where, you know, these things aren't getting done and, you know, we can't hire anybody. We are working through those. We're trying to be as gentle as we can as we move through that. You know, one of the big things were the tree pruning contracts. We spent,
And the
shoot, I don't know.
goats, and the goats, that was quite
Yeah,
a
and
bit. That's
our-
new.
Yeah, we've had those coming through.
I
So
think we could spend more.
what's that?
I think we could spend more.
I think we can look at different ways, I mean, to do that and actually increase some of those. I think one of the things that we can do in our Parks and Trees Department is we could probably look at, you know, because they also do the streets and the hardscapes and things like that, is look at sidewalk, not only replacement, but installation. We can look outside for a contractor to do that because we do not have the capacity within the city to take on projects like that. We do more maintenance than we do construction. So I think we have to just look at this with a different set of eyes. And I think one of the things we should really talk about in the March meeting is a different perspective and say, okay, well, you know, if we can't do this, then what can we do over here? And just be sensitive to, I don't know a good way to say this, the issues that may arise out of those things when we're working with labor groups. So that just carefully walk through that.
Understood. Is that, can you deal with the labor organization on a local level? I mean, is it Oroville
Yeah.
city employees that we?
Yes.
And if we see deferred maintenance from way back and we're just trying to catch up, you think they would say, okay, we'll go ahead and take care of all those trees that are hanging over the streets? And
I can tell you they didn't complain, and matter of fact, supported when we brought in the tree services that we've
Tree of
done over
life.
the last few years. I mean, it was amazing to me, Mr. Grover, you know, they said they were going to trim the trees. Well, my idea of trimming a tree is the limb that's right here. I'll just cut that off so it don't hit me in the head anymore when I walk by. Well, I was watching them do their work. They were taking from way up in the trees pieces of wood that were probably 8 inches around out of there, which that was dead. That, you just don't see. So, I mean, it was, there is a tremendous amount of that deferred maintenance. And I think that, as long as we do it carefully, I think that they will be amenable to that and appreciative of that, because, the people that work there, they really do care about the community as well, and they want to see as much done as possible.
Of course they do. And then I was looking at the police, $745,000 unspent. There was some really good comments from these nice folks here about cameras, other policing that we could expend money on.
Well, I think looking at all of those tools is a good thing. The tool is of no use if there's no one to use it. Cameras are great for evidence, but if you don't, cameras don't solve all your problems. That's just, they're great. They provide good evidence, but if you don't know who the person is, it really is of little use.
And if the
Or you
DA is
don't-
not going to prosecute it, and it's not a crime in the state of California, and it's,
Or you don't have the
Doesn't
staff
do
to
any good.
monitor.
Well, and I think we should probably, one of the things that we should explore is if, because we do face all those issues and they're a reality of where we're at, is, let's look at diversion programs, something that we can run from within the police department. And maybe, we utilize, sworn personnel, but we also utilize people at a lower level on that to help with the diversion program so that we can support our businesses and our community when somebody does what, I know isn't to any individual when it happens to them a minor offense, but in the eyes of the law, it's a minor offense. Maybe we can do something on this side where they do community service within the city of Oroville in lieu of requesting charges against them. There's all sorts of, I think, different outside of the box thinking that we could probably use, and we could make a reasonable justification that this is a public safety issue, which is appropriate for Measure U dollars. $745,000, if we were to take all that and put it towards something like that, would fund a program like that for probably a couple years. So, I mean, that is something that we certainly can look at, and I think that we have to look at this with a different perspective than what we've traditionally been doing, because maybe we aren't going to be able to do the things that we've traditionally done because they're not working.
Is there any possibility of contracting some police work out?
Not without a real fight on your hands. I mean, we just went through the issue with fire, and I think that was tumultuous enough. If we were to immediately turn around and start doing that with the police, that would be an issue. Finding a partner that would be willing to do that would also be difficult, because one of the issues it was going with, hypothetically, suppose we were to go to the sheriff's department. The sheriff is an elected official who's not going to respond to a council. I mean, just plain and simple. I mean, because he or she is, they run their part of their world and they don't want to get involved in a situation like this. Now, not saying that can't be done. It's just not where we're at right now. So that would be a difficult, a very difficult situation for us to resolve. And there aren't any other local partners. Highway Patrol is not going to come in. State Parks isn't going to do it. Chico PD's not, they have their own staffing issues. Gridley has their staffing issues, and it would make sense to go to a smaller one. So, I mean, long story short, no.
I wasn't thinking of the sheriff's department. I was thinking of like you hire a private security firm to patrol the parks.
Yeah. Well, who are they going to call?
Walk the streets down.
Okay, well, there's a problem. Who are they going to call? The police. I mean, and we're kind of right back to the same thing. So now what we have is we've paid people to be reporting parties that we don't have the adequate personnel to respond to at this point. So I get what you're saying, but it kind of all comes back to the same issue. So, and then you get into issues of, am I providing more service for this part of the community and not that part of the community? And if I'm going to do it here, then I have to do it there. And so what we really need to do is aggressively and actively recruit, find different ways to get those bodies here and get ourselves staffed. Now, I'm not going to stand here also and tell you, well, we're going to solve all the problems and that's going to be put, aside in 6 months. It's going to be rough for the next few years. I mean, law enforcement recruiting for that right now is extremely difficult. When you look at the way the world is and you see the support that law enforcement often receives from some communities, it's not good. And who would want to do it? I mean, there's, I guess there's not that many people like Brian and I that just aren't that smart, and that's what we do.
It was a lot different when we got started too.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, so I think this is a great workshop kind of conversation. I think where, we can start pulling on the private sector, ideas and thoughts.
One thing I'd like to do, Committee Member Smith, is with Mark's idea is, let's put those ideas out there, let's talk about them. I'll tell you what the negative and the positive would be, and then all of us put our minds together and say, how do we work through that minefield? I mean, that's just because, not saying that absolutely everything's just a no, we aren't going to do that. Saying, okay, here's the challenges that I see with that. We have, the potential of 11 different minds working on this problem. I mean, it might be real simple to one of you sitting up there, well, if you just did this, then, well, I didn't look that way, I was looking this way. So I think these are great topics for the workshop, and be prepared to have those conversations. I agree that, if we just every year, we have the same 10 things, well, you're going to get the same 10 results. I mean, we have to think differently. We have to look at what is a holistic plan for our law enforcement. What tools do they need? What personnel do they need? What different programs, what outside of the box thinking can we use? And then we need to extrapolate that thought out from not only law enforcement to our parks and trees, our street department, our code enforcement department, whatever that may be. I mean, let's utilize all of the abilities that we have. We all are unique.
Committee Member Goodson?
So, I hate to be the bearer of good news, but the agenda item is an update on revenue and expense for Measure U district tax.
Just saying, we're getting out in the weeds here.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, that's why I was saying that
Because
it's
this
really
is
for
definitely a
workshop
circular
stuff.
conversation.
Yeah, it's a workshop. We really need to segue.
Well, before we
into this.
adjourn, could we
Yes.
maybe come up with some dates, or would
Wait,
you
wait.
like
Well, and-
Jackie and I to select some dates and then float it out in an email, and then you guys can pick what works for you, or is that something that we could do tonight?
Yeah.
I
we-
do have a question on this form.
Committee Member Castro?
Is the 4.987 budget remaining July 20 to July 21? And in addition to the 8.97 from 21 to 21?
No. So I know this is a different way to look at it. I used to list out every month the remittance, and I'll probably just go back to that because this is confusing. So what you're looking at is July and August remittances go back to the prior year because July is for May, August is for June. So it's a different calendar year that we're collecting our sales tax. So this is actually only 4 months of revenue. So in the next 6 months, in June, we're gonna get July and August accrued back. So that is only 4 months of sales tax revenue. Was that the question?
Yes, and from a previous meeting, there was a talk about 4.7 being carried over. What did that mean?
That was that our surplus from last year? That
Yes.
it just goes into fund balance.
So is that not reflected on here that we have a
I
fund
haven't
reserve?
reported on fund balance on this, but I could put that in a report. Yeah, no
Okay, because
problem.
I think that would be
Yeah.
a good discussion for our workshop.
Sure.
How is that money going to be
Yeah,
spent?
because if we don't spend it, it just sits in the fund and, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So if my memory serves me correct, on the previous workshop, was like several hours.
We did in the middle of the day.
And it was during the day, in the morning till the afternoon.
We can change the format, though. We could do something different this year.
Any thoughts on, do we want staff to come back with a couple of date recommendations? Or do we want to try to set a date today? Any?
I mean, depending on what you guys have on your calendar, we've got a couple other meetings coming up, but March 22nd, because I know Tuesdays seem to work well for you guys. If that happens to be available on your calendar, or I can send out a doodle poll and see if we can get a majority to accept it.
Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do
Because
that.
March 22nd, I'm going through an upgrade.
Okay.
And that's impossible.
And there's also the 29th, which is a extra Tuesday next month. But I can send out a
So
couple
why
dates.
don't you do that? Why don't you send out a couple of dates and get, kind of take the temperature?
Okay. Will 10 o'clock-ish work like we've done in the past? Because that's,
Excuse me, what did you just say?
I know.
I thought you stuttered. What was the time you threw out?
So in the past, the workshop's usually been in the morning at like 10.
Okay, so for me, whatever works for the majority.
Yeah, so why don't you just do that survey and do the times and the dates, and we'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like also an option, I'd also like an option for later. I know that it was problematic for some of the committee members to get off work that day. So I'm not sure how much public input that we'd like to have, but it's possible a 4 o'clock might make it more conducive to having public here than 10.
Okay,
So-
so I'll look at like maybe 2 dates and 2 times.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Either way, I'm gonna be busy or have to give up golf, so.
Rough. Okay, with no further communication, I think we can safely adjourn this meeting. So we're going to adjourn it to the May 24th, 2022 at 6 PM with the understanding that there will be an additional meeting established through our Doodle Reach outreach. Okay, all right, so this meeting is adjourned at 6:54.
Thank you.
And when do we have a new vice chair?